Hi guys, it's Abby with the Bead Place and beadplace.net, and today I'm going to show you how to make a Libby bracelet. Okay, so I have a button here. This is a button with a shank. You can use a button with a hole instead, but you just need to make sure you're doing the bracelet backwards in order to accommodate for that. So, I have 10 inches of jeweler's wire. On my jeweler's wire, I am going to string a crimp bead. I'm going to go through the shank of the button with the end of the jeweler's wire, and then I'm going to go back through the crimp bead. And of course I can do this in no time when I'm not on camera, but for some reason it takes me a minute whenever I'm filming. So, dun dun dun, I have now gone through the crimp bead. I'm going to tighten this so that it's pretty close to the shank here. So now I'm going to crimp it. You can use whatever type of crimp tool you have at home. I'm using the magical crimp forming tool that turns your crimp tube into a ball. So we do have those in the web store. They're awesome. They eliminate the need for crimp bead covers. Basically, I'm just kind of going all the way around in a circle with my crimp tool, and that's forming a little ball. So you just work all the way in a circle and it forms a little ball. It's probably a little too small for you to see, but you get the idea. So now we're going to start the knotting. I have 2 yards here of, actually 2 meters of Genya cord. This is 1.5 millimeter. I'm going to fold my cord in half, and I am going to put the button through my little loop of cord, and I'm going to start a square knot. So a square knot is just right over left and left over right. So this is basically that boondoggle knot that we did as kids at camp. So we're going to start like this. My button fell through, so just make sure your button doesn't fall through. So tie your knot, and you want your knot to be pretty tight. So like that. Then we're going to slide the knot up to cover the crimp. Like that. So now I'm going to start my cobra knot, or my square knot, that's going to kind of complete the base of the bracelet. So I'm going to take one side of the cord and place it over the jeweler's wire. Then I'm going to take the other side of the cord and I'm going to bring it over the initial cord and behind the jeweler's wire, and then up through the loop made from the other side of the cord. So I know this is a little confusing at first. I'm going to do this, I'm going to add beads, and then I'm going to bring in for a little bit of a closer look. So I'm going to tighten this. So it looks like this so far. This is the start of the cobra stitch, or the cobra knot. So then what I'm going to do is add a spacer, a little daisy spacer, a 10 millimeter pearl, and then another spacer. I'm going to slide those up and then do another knot. So this is basically going to kind of capture the bead inside. Okay, so you see how the bar of the side of the knot is on this side? That means we are going to start with this side here. So we're going to cross this over the top of the jeweler's wire. We're going to take this side here, we're going to bring it in front, behind the jeweler's wire, and then up through this loop right here. And then we're going to tighten it. Now I'm going to take this side, bring this over in front of the jeweler's wire. I'm going to take this side, bring it over the tail end behind the jeweler's wire, and bring it up through the loop. And then we're going to tighten it. Like that. So now I'm going to add a spacer, a purl, and a spacer, and then repeat the same thing. So I've got a spacer, I'm going to add a purl, and then a spacer. And now I'm going to switch sides. So I'm going to start with this side. I started with the other side before, so I've made my little loop. I'm going to bring this over the tail end, whoops, behind the jeweler's wire and up through the loop. And so now I'm going to take this side, bring it over the jeweler's wire. This side is going to come over the top of the tail end, behind the jeweler's wire, and up through the loop. So you see how we're basically forming square knots around the jeweler's wire? That's the goal. And then switching sides is going to put these bars back and forth. So I'm going to tighten this up, and then I'm going to continue on. Okay, so I have just finished my last knot. I'm going to string my crimp bead onto my jeweler's wire, and then I'm going to crimp around one of these strands of cords. So I'm going to take the jeweler's wire around the cord and then bring it back into the crimp bead. There we go. I got it. Maybe. Quite possibly. I did it! Okay, so I'm going to pull this tight, or as tight as I can get it, so that I still have room to actually crimp it. So ideally, you want the crimp bead to come down really close to your knot, and then we'll basically hide all of the excess jeweler's wire by doing more knots. So you can kind of pull your cord out a little bit like this. So you see how I'm pulling the cord out this way? That way I have room to get in here and crimp, but I just want to make sure that the distance is right so that it's hidden whenever I actually go in and finish crimping. So I've pulled that out to the side. I'm going to take my crimping pliers in and crimp. So go around and around and around. And then once your crimp is finished, you can trim the tail end off. And since this is going to get hidden with a knot, we don't have to tuck the tail end into a large hole bead or anything, because it's going to be out of the way anyway. So you're going to pull your knot and pull your crimp down. And then what we're going to do is we are going to make a buttonhole. So I like this doubled buttonhole look here. How that is done is with an overhand knot. So we're going to hold all of your cords together, double it back on itself, and then tie an overhand knot. So this might take a couple tries in order to get a clean looking knot that you actually like and that is actually the right size. So you're just going to hold it doubled. You're going to make a loop like this and then bring the tail ends through the loop that you've created. And the goal is to cover up that crimp while doing so. So you can pull from the tail ends to kind of tighten the knot rather than pulling from the loop, because we want a relatively small loop so that the button doesn't slip out. So just kind of watch where you're pulling. You can transition the slack from the loop actually into the knot and then into the tail end so that you can get a good sized knot. And with a doubled knot like this, a doubled overhand knot, you don't really need glue. But if you want to wear your bracelet every day for the rest of your life, you might want to put a little bit of glue on. So just adjust the size of your knot, trim your tail ends, and then you have an adorable finished Libby bracelet. So thanks for watching. We put out new videos every month. You can find all of the information in the description below, and like and subscribe, and you can find the kit on beadplace.net. Thanks for watching.